from 1965 through early 70s, there was a sort of upheaval of popular movements of diverse kinds, constituting, as I said, a sort of zone. At the political level, 1970 was considered a crucial year by many, including myself. And the reason is that it was the 10th year of the conclusion of the Security Treaty. And the treaty can be ended with a notice of 1 year. And if it's not abrogated, it will continue without any procedure. So setting 1970 as a crucial year was itself a sort of a wishful choice. Unless we are strong enough to force the government to abrogate or to work out, the treaty would continue. It was obvious. Yet we set 1970 as the most crucial year. Oda thought that some intense campaign against the treaty should be started, and proposed to launch a new weekly journal, because weekly journals were very much in fashion at the time. So several weekly journals, some scandalous, others a little bit serious, were sold in stores at every station, you know? And commuting people would buy them and read them in the train. That kind of habit is general. And so Oda urged people to get together and to start a new weekly journal, which we did, raised much money, and recruited first-class intellectuals, artists, graphic designers, and started it. It was not a failure, it was a success, and we had large circulation, and contributed to the sort of arousing the public. Yet 1970 the struggle was a failure, and nothing, we couldn't change the basic things. Although street confrontation sort of escalated 1969 confrontation, which created a sort of riot situation in Shinjuku, the mostly bustling place in Tokyo's sort of amusement zone. But in the street fight by students and left organized left troopers were reported widely throughout the world. You know, it's a sort of battle stories, but not contents. So I felt that there should be some communication from inside Japan to friends all over the world about what we are aiming at and what we were. In 69, Beijing took the initiative of having a large international conference in Kyoto, using the prestigious state-owned meeting hall in Kyoto, inviting everybody, including leaders of new left political groups, as well as famous traditional liberal intellectuals. There are a German pacifist activist living in Yokohama, in Hiroshima, said that you should have a media of communication to the rest of the world. That was what I was thinking. I stood up and said, yes, exactly. So I will make it. Such a commitment I made. That's what other people also felt. And so I asked the people who are in the Beijing office. Beijing office was a rather spacious office, just in front of the Kagurazaka subway station, the second floor of a Chinese restaurant. So many people are there. And by that time, people who are involved in Beijing in that office started various groups, like helping Korean people, or what else? The people who are against Japanese males, prostitution, travel, etc. So there are many groups. So it's like a sort of beehive. It's not beehive. It's not organized. It's different groups occupy a certain corner. And so I cleared one part of the table and asked people to help me. So 2-3 people offered help. And somehow, I forget how, but got an big old typewriter, set it, so to occupy the space. And started. But at that time, young American scholars, Asian scholars were there, who belonged to CCAS, Committee of Concerned Asian Scholars, which is a sort of academic organization set up against the mainstream Asian academy. So people like John Dower was there. Herb Bix also was involved. But Mark Selden from New York was there. And those group people were organized themselves into Gaijin Beijing, foreign dance Beijing, and took the independent action, like going into the American embassy compound and attempt to sit down, because they are Americans and so they are not so treated so harshly, but so Italians are there, and the various Westerners were there who spoke English. Douglas Ramis, who had been a Marine soldier sent to Okinawa, was also there. He after the military service, he was studying at Berkeley, California, and he came to Japan to study Japanese ideologist, right-wing ideologist rural kind of rightist thinker. He abandoned because it's very difficult to read old literature. But he was there, and I met him. And he was one of the organizers of Gaijin Beheren, foreigners Beheren. So those people were there with us, and so they helped. They participated. So Mark Selden thinks that it was a joint product of CCS Tokyo branch and Beheren. It's partly true because they collaborated, but it was Doug Ramis who was not a member of CCS, but the one who worked most closely. And the first issue of AMPO was his interview with Oda Makoto. We decided to publish English periodical, hopefully. And the first issue was made actually in a glossy Indian paper. Indian paper is the paper which is very thin and can be airmailed out at low cost. That's why we could afford the first issue because AMPO journal, the Japanese, we set up a company, and that company gave me 30,000 yen. So the first issue could be published in a very sort of nice way, a nice paper, nice printing. That's only the first issue. That was the first issue carried a very tragic sort of confrontation between demonstrators and the police, and thousands arrested, etc. That was the first article, plus interview by Ramis with Oda Makoto. There are 2-3 young persons, one women student, the other youngster almost stationed in Beheren office. We didn't know how to continue. But people are very glad, and so many young people who actually picked the first issue up and began to sell it to the people who were around. At that time, there was a very famous Asahi Shimbun journalist, Honda Katsuichi, was writing a serial reportage on Vietnam. He went to Vietnam. He and an Okinawa photographer together went to the front and wrote very, very vivid accounts of the Vietnam War, what was happening, and the behavior of American soldiers, etc., etc. And one female activist, who was a scholar also, decided to translate Honda's articles and disseminate it in America, because such information was not available in America. The pro-government, pro-military reports are plenty, but not real description of the war scenes and war situations. And I was also asked to help translation, and so several people got together and made a very thin pamphlet. And she began to sell it in America through first church channels and other channels. And demand was so great that we printed many times again. And I don't remember how many copies were sold after all, but very many. That means that the list of American readers interested in the Vietnam War situation was available. And she agreed to give the list to us. So that's how we started to send AMPO out, first to America. And so we got mostly American left people who were around Behiren. Some like Jean English, who studied in Indonesia and came back, and she translated Kaneko Fumiko's book. Anyway, we had so several such English speakers working with us. It was in 1969. In 1970, I met with Kitazawa Yoko. Actually, I wanted to meet her and met her for the first time on April 28th. That's Okinawa Day. That's a day when San Francisco Peace Treaty, which sold Okinawa out to America. So there was a demonstration, and thousands of people were there, and I met her there. Got her appointment, and agreed on the spot to start a new publication, series of books. Not a journal, but a series of, we called it MOOC or something, M-O-O-K. Instead of book, it's a MOOC or something. That's a sort of it's a series of books. She studied economics, but she married with Masao, Kitazawa Masao, and Masao was appointed as secretariat member of the Afro-Asian People's Solidarity Secretariat in Cairo. So she, with her husband, she went there. So she was working there for a long time. And there was already a very sharp conflict between Moscow and Beijing. And that secretariat was divided very seriously. And she was on the Chinese side. And she experienced, that was the early 60s, and so it was when the year of Africa, one after another, independence, but all the genuine independence movement were crushed. Our main leaders killed. And those leaders, she mingled with, and she actually absorbed the spirit of African revolution at the time. And so she was an exceptional person who were well versed in African affairs, and not only African affairs, but inhaled the air of early independence trends of the African people, you know. But those people were wiped out. Cabral in the main, but others too. After the service there, she went throughout Africa and then moved to Beijing. And he was living in Beijing for Afro-Asian Solidarity Secretary or something, no? During the Cultural Revolution, and I witnessed all those severe sort of conflicts and turmoil of the Cultural Revolution, and came back. She came back when she saw in Beijing the Tokyo University struggle, where the gate had a big slogan, "Revolt has a reason." And she was greatly impressed and decided to hurry back. That slogan was put out by the ML Marxist-Leninist faction of the Bund. So it's not didn't represent the entire struggle. But she was impressed, and she came back and started the small bulletin, newsletter, which I saw, and I liked it. I know them before they left for Africa, particularly Masao, the husband, I knew earlier. But Yoko, I had no personal acquaintance, although I had much information about her from friends who visited her in Africa. So I asked her to meet me. She came and agreed to start a new series of books on dependency thinking. Because the Japanese Marxist scholarship is heavily slanted toward so-called advanced country capitalism. So quite sophisticated arguments caught the mind and of the left intellectuals, but not at all about imperialism. About imperialism, yes, but that was on the basis of Lenin's imperialism only. So I wanted to get a new sort of theoretical insight from new scholars. And I was reading Monthly Review, and during my work in the news agency, the union-based news agency in my pre-Gensikyo period, I was reading American theoretical journals and so on. So I was feeling that some breakthrough should be done, to bring third world affairs into the left thinking. And Yoko was the proper person, I thought, to work with. So we started Rentai, that's solidarity. In Chinese, it has no such meaning. Rentai is, Ren is, you know that. But in Japanese, Rentai is solidarity. So we picked up some Gunda Frank, and Gunda Frank I wrote about, and others, Emmanuel, Gili Emmanuel, etc., etc. And so we published 4 books. With that, we agreed to set up an office. So it's a rental office, not AMPO office. But we moved AMPO operation to that office. It's a small room of 2/3 of this room. Second floor with no staircase. It's only external iron stairs. And downstairs, an old couple were working on some handicraft kind of thing. And so it's a very, very shabby place. But by that time, we started to receive publications from foreign countries, America mainly, but from Europe also. Actually, in operating AMPO, quite a few American left intellectuals collaborated. And actually, Gunda Frank himself came to that office. So it's a very, very shabby, small office with no windows. 5 tatami room or something, 6 maybe. But we started to receive so many parcels, and they are piled up. And we couldn't afford even to open all of those. So they are just piled up. And we picked up some important looking parcels and read. That's the beginning of PAC, because we felt guilty just receiving and not using them. But AMPO, in the meantime, was becoming a network. First, we sent it to America and somehow to Europe. That's why we received, for instance, we began to receive weekly black newspaper, which is a thick one and enveloped, and so that alone piled up. And also from Italy, we began to receive the Rota Continua and other New Left journals. And we began to receive reaction from Asian people who were in struggle or who are writing critically about the situation. In that period of time, in most countries, dictatorships ruled. And so it was very, very difficult for the people to communicate. AMPO found itself a kind of necessary means of communication among Asian activists and active groups. In that period, a very important role in networking Asian activists was the CCAUIM, the Christian network. It's when the idea of ecumenism was very much in fashion, and in the Catholic world, liberation theology, and WCC, World Council of Churches, also was very active, and the people who in the Geneva office, there are people like Ojeshik, Samuel Lee, those people were there. And so there's a sort of independent network of Christians. And in 1972, so in Singapore, they held Asian People's Conference or something, assembling people from mainly Southeast Asian and Korean action groups. They called it action groups. And in 72, Oda initiated Asian People's Conference, which was held in Tokyo. And the establishment of PAC was connected with it. We agreed to set up something in order to make the resource which was piled up available to the public. By that time, AMPO actually was a sort of network connecting both America, Europe, and Asia countries. Asian readers couldn't pay for subscription, but American universities, libraries, actually were the main source. And Mark Selden helped in changing the checks into sort of had an account, and we sent checks to Mark, and Mark deposited it in the AMPO account, and we withdraw them at a certain time, because if you exchange it in Japan, then the sort of transaction fee is so high. So that's how we operated.